Loud booms are the talk of the town in Osceola County tonight, but nobody knows where the sound is coming from.
Residents have taken to social media to theorize what's making the sound, everything from military aircraft to explosive used for firearms practice.
There's been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard in the atmosphere. People around the world and here at home have reported hearing some bizarre noises.
I have no idea, like, it's coming straight out of the sky. What is that?
Did you feel that?
I have no idea, like, it's coming straight out of the sky. What is that?
What on earth?
I have no idea what the hell they are. It's rattling the earth around here. We're in Long Island, January 18th. And it's fucking loud. You hear that? You hear that shit? Fuck is that shit?
What? Okay. Sounds like, oh no, in the sky, hard to see, really hard to see. Like fucking just all clouds too.
¿Qué es esa pinche güey? Oye, y está raro, man. ¿Qué es esa pinche? ¿Qué es esa pinche?
Imo, está raro.
Esa pinche, güey.
Likewise as it was also in the days of Lot. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Wicked men were punished by the Lord in a divine judgment of fire. The intense heat consumed the wicked cities and their inhabitants. But Lot's wife looked back toward her beloved Sodom, violating the angel's command, and was thus turned into a pillar of salt. Turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them to destruction, making them an example of those who afterward would live ungodly. This is a visible example that is mentioned here. The Bible tells us the cities were in the plain of Jordan, which is the area surrounding the Dead Sea, and it was once a beautiful, lush area. At 1,300 feet below sea level, this is the lowest place on earth, a very hot and desolate region that was cursed by God because of the sins of the people. Flavius Josephus, the 1st century Jewish historian, tells us, "There are still the remainders of that divine fire, and the traces of the 5 cities are still to be seen." Popular thought has it that the cities were later covered by the waters of the Dead Sea, but if Josephus could see the cities in his day, then we should be able to view them also, as the water level has, if anything, receded since his time. These cities were consumed by intense flames, a supernatural heat that was directed by the hand of God. Today there is ash that is of lighter color than the surrounding mountains and terrain. As mentioned in the Bible, this is a desolate area where nothing grows. Inspecting the formations closely, one can see structures containing man-made elements, such as 90-degree angles. Even though the buildings were consumed by the fire, the remaining ash in these cities is comprised of a heavier material due to the inclusion of brimstone or sulfur, and still retains some of the original shapes of man-made structures. This stunning structure stands out as a singular formation with 4 sides, surrounded by a deep moat. We move in closer to inspect the unusual features evident on the side of the formation. On the side of the structure, this swirling pattern is different from any type of sedimentary rock or soil that would normally contain horizontal, even layers. These swirling designs were also seen in other ashen formations in the cities. This is evidence of extreme heat, up to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, where thermal ionization occurs, when the electrons repel and attract, forming these unusual swirling designs. In Lot's day, this area was a swirling cauldron of death and destruction, rained down from the Lord in heaven. Evidence of this destruction is revealed in the white gypsum anomalies in the area, including unusual shapes of chalk-like material, which is not found in other parts of the country. Even layers of white and gray material can also be seen, comprising gypsum and ash. A large section of gypsum has fallen down here. It clearly exhibits the alternating layers of white ash that is calcium sulfate, gray ash that is calcium carbonate. One can also find loose or powdery ash that is quite thick and has been deposited next to the formations. The ash is made up of calcium carbonate and calcium sulfate, which comes from the limestone buildings and the brimstone mixing together during the fire. In the formations themselves, some material can be gently raked off the surface with the slightest touch. Looking down the city streets, one can notice man-made shapes which are not found in nature. Here we see a building with square sides or 90-degree angles. From the opposite side, we can see the same symmetrical structure and man-made angles. We can see the remains of walls that extended outward at 90-degree angles from the main structure. Once again, further evidence of man-made construction. Here we can see square windows that are visible in the walls of the structures, which give us a view of the past. Scanning the city for signs of prior habitation, we can see in the foreground a tower of cylindrical design, positioned at the edge of the city. The remains have suffered greatly during 3,500 years of wind and rain erosion. Even still, there is the appearance here of streets and man-made structures. The whole land is brimstone, salt and burning. It is not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and his wrath. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, from the Lord out of the heavens. Brimstone. Our first sample was found here, having been washed down from a higher location. This is the heavenly marker left behind, which proves the sites to be the real Sodom and Gomorrah. Ron Wyatt was the original discoverer of these cities in 1989, and he now describes the brimstone found here.
Okay, we're down at Sodom and Gomorrah still. Right in front of you see some unusual looking spots on this shall we say, layer of ash. It's not stone, it's ash. Now we'll move in for a close-up of this. And you can see that they're kind of circular shaped places. Now what we have found, and we'll move in a little closer here, is that inside each of these is sulfur. That is in most of them. Now the ones that do not have sulfur in them, and this one we just took a bunch of sulfur out and put it in our specimen bag. But the ones that don't have sulfur have a very black center where they have where it's been very hot. So now we'll move in on this one where there is some sulfur still present, and back off just enough so you can see what we're up to here, and we'll go collect that sample in a bag.
Exploring the cities further, more brimstone was found of various shapes and sizes. Several samples had been washed down to areas below and were added to our growing collection. This brimstone is made of monoclinic, white sulfur that has been burned or cooked at a high temperature. It is quite different from natural sulfur that is formed in geothermal areas. Samples were taken to a lab for analysis. Each specimen was carefully separated and prepared for testing, with the outer portion cast aside. Next, the samples were dried and placed in a rock crusher. Then they were pressed onto a disc. Then they were loaded into a machine for the semi-quantitative X-ray analysis. Each sample was individually transported into the testing chamber for analysis. The results proved to be quite amazing. As the samples were found to be 98% pure sulfur, unlike any other sulfur found on Earth. This pure, cooked sulfur is the heavenly marker that was left behind to show the world that the Lord, without a doubt, destroyed these sinful cities at his command. Critics have said that the sulfur is from volcanic activity, but that type of rhombic sulfur is only 40% sulfur and is of a crystalline form, unlike the white, compacted monoclinic form that is found in the ashen cities today.
Familiar with this weather phenomenon, balls of ice pelting down on the earth. Hail can even get rather large, so much so it becomes like missiles.
Wow!
But imagine if something like this fell out of the sky.
A grandfather has been hit by a big block of ice which fell from the sky while he was in his garden.
It's true. Enjoying a sunny day in Bristol, David Gammon thought he'd had his bacon.
It's now down to about the size of an orange, but nonetheless, travelling at 120 miles an hour or so, it comes as quite a shock. It's rather like being hit by a fast bowler with a cricket ball.
And that would be painful. But where in the heavens had this single block of ice come from in the middle of a summer's day? Could it in some way be a mega-sized relation to hail? For hail to form, you need one of these. Cumulonimbus, giant storm clouds that climb to enormous heights. At the top, the air temperature is cold enough for ice crystals to form. And as these are jostled around inside the cloud, they grow and grow until eventually they're forced down to Earth. Either because they've got too heavy, or a strong downdraft from the storm pushes them out. Darren Bett is one of the BBC's weather forecasters.
There are cases of hailstones the size of golf balls, hailstones even the size of grapefruit.
But what fell on a car in Florida in 2007 was way bigger than a grapefruit. What started as a 45-centimetre block of ice not only took out the back windscreen, but also sent the car a metre into the air with the impact.
These large chunks of ice are very, very heavy, and I don't know of any updrafts that can keep them up in the air and build them and grow them in the same way that a hailstorm can. Also, they seem to be coming from cloudless skies.
Not only are they too heavy to be hail, but without a cloud to have formed them, the hail theory is frankly out the window. So where could the finger point next? Well, if you look up, you're likely to see one potential culprit flying by. Could they have fallen from a plane? Horek Kelleher is the head of airworthiness at the Civil Aviation Authority.
If the ice is completely clear, then we are pretty sure it's most likely not an aviation source. But sometimes we have reports of ice that's coloured. That usually suggests there is chemical content which we do use in treating toilet waste.
So, beware of blue ice. Its origins could be somewhat unsavoury. But then only 5% of reported cases in the UK can be linked to planes anyway. So that leaves us scratching our heads about the other 95%. Experts have named these unidentified falling objects as mega cryometeors, and with a name like that, it would suggest they came from space. But on closer inspection, they don't have enough dust or iron content to be typical meteors.
A basketball-sized chunk of ice smashed into the roof of a Fremont home last night. The homeowner says she heard the crash, felt the house shake. The ice punched a hole in the roof, you can see there, but didn't break all the way through. Neighbors say they heard the impact too.
A chunk of ice drops from the sky, but its origins are a mystery. The ice is white, not blue, and that means it may not have fallen from an airplane.
Cassie, on a day when the temperatures were in the 90s and not a cloud in the sky, a chunk of ice fell out of the sky onto the roof of this Fremont home, knocking out tiles and leaving a hole the size of a basketball.
A mystery from above in Brooklyn, chunks of ice falling from the sky on an 80-degree day. The big question, where did it come from?
It sounds like a gunshot.
Terry Blasey and Louis Vitale was sitting on her porch Wednesday when suddenly it came from out of the blue.
All of a sudden we heard something like fly through the trees, really loud, and then a loud thump.
They raced out to find a chunk of ice on the street the size of a softball.
And it must have come through really fast. And then thud, you know, and
at first, what'd you say?
Well, what was that?
Terry and Louis found smaller pieces of ice scattered across the street.
I says, Terry, it's ice. I says, I can't believe, where did this come from? And we're looking up. You know, she came off the porch. We're both looking up at the sky.
So for now, the scientists are actually out of ideas. So for the moment, large chunks of ice falling to Earth remain a mystery. But there is one thing that's certain. If one hits you, it's going to hurt you. The largest ever recorded weighed 90 kilograms, that's 200 pounds. And when that reached terminal velocity at a speed of around 100 miles an hour, well, that would be like being hit by an African elephant.
I have no idea, like, it's coming straight out of the sky. What is that?